Good morning everyone. This is Raghu, Assistant Professor of Biotechnology from SR and BGNR Government College, Khammam. So today's topic is column chromatography. So in the previous class we have seen the types of chromatography. So that is plane chromatography, and also we have seen the chromatographic techniques which will come under the column chromatography. So today we will discuss some column chromatography techniques which are included in your syllabus, and also applications of this column chromatography techniques. So as I mentioned in the previous class, the chromatographic techniques based on the partition or distribution coefficient. So the solute molecules which are to be separated are distributed between these stationary and the mobile phases. So this is the basic principle of every chromatographic technique. So the only difference is in plane chromatography you will be using a plain paper or a glass plate for the solid support. In column chromatography you will be using a glass column for the solid support. So that is the major difference between the plane and the column chromatography. So rest of the principle and also the separation process with interaction with mobile and stationary phases are similar. So today we are going to discuss about three types of column chromatography techniques: gel filtration or molecular exclusion chromatography, ion exchange chromatography, and high performance liquid chromatography. So these three are included in your syllabus. So the first one is gel filtration or molecular exclusion chromatography. So in this technique, the sample molecules or solute particles are separated based on the molecular size. So basically speaking, they depend upon the size and shape and molecular weight also. But since it is mentioned as molecular size or gel exclusion chromatography or size exclusion chromatography, so it is based on the molecular size of the solute particles. So every solute particle or protein molecule to be separated is made up of amino acids, and it will be existing in a particular shape and also structure like primary structure, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure. So it will be having a specific size and also shape and molecular weight. For example, if you see the classification of proteins based on the shape, globular and fibrous proteins. So fibrous proteins are long elongated, whereas globular proteins are will be existing in a three-dimensional structure, giving a globule-like oval shape. If you subject this fibrous protein and globular proteins to molecular exclusion chromatography, the first one that is eluted from the column will be your globular protein, because the globular protein will interact less with the stationary phase and interacts more with the mobile phase, it will be eluted. Whereas the shape of the fibrous protein is long and elongated, so it will take some time for the fibrous protein to come out of the column. So this is called as retention time. So the separation is based on the size and shape and retention time of the molecule. So all these will be based on the shape of the protein to be eluted from the column. So this is how you separate by molecular exclusion chromatography. So there is a little difference with the molecular exclusion and gel filtration chromatography techniques. So both are carried out in a column where the packing material will be the stationary phase, the column is the solid support, and the solvent that is used for the elution process of the sample molecule will be the mobile phase. So you can clearly see the glass column, it will be packed with stationary phase, and then you will be applying your sample at the top of the stationary phase. So for example, if you want to separate a single protein from a mixture of protein, and the protein will be exhibiting a different shape. For example, you can see large molecular weight proteins and small molecular weight proteins. So large molecular weight proteins, they travel in the spaces between the gel beads of the stationary phase, whereas small molecules will enter into the gel beads. So larger molecules will come out faster, whereas the smaller molecules will retain for some time in the gel. That means they are eluted out of the gel after some time. So the retention time for the smaller molecules will be more, and the retention time for the larger molecules will be less. So this is the principle of the gel filtration or molecular exclusion. So molecular exclusion means the molecules will be excluded from the gel beads. So that means they travel in the spaces between the gel beads. That is molecular exclusion chromatography. Generally, the packing material in the molecular exclusion chromatography will be hydrophobic material, whereas in gel filtration technique, the technique is same, but here the stationary phase will be hydrophilic. So that is the major difference. So hydrophilic stationary phase is present in gel filtration technique, and in molecular exclusion chromatography it is the hydrophobic stationary phase that is used for the separation of the solute particles or sample particles. So whatever may be the stationary phase, the separation is based on the size, shape and molecular weight of the molecules. So the mobile phases, stationary phases generally that are used in gel filtration are silica gel, polystyrene, cephadics, etc. These will be having a different portion. For example, G20, 250, cephadics, it is also otherwise called as G250, G500, G1000, etc. So this G250 means 250 kilodalton protein can enter into the gel bead. So the protein above this molecule will be excluded from the gel bead. So that is the indication. So cephadics you can use in the column as a stationary phase, which will be having a different range of pore size where it accommodate proteins from 250 kilodaltons to 1000 kilodaltons. So the stationary phase is filled with this cephadics or silica or polystyrene, etc. These are the stationary phases. While coming into the mobile phases, if you are using biological compounds like proteins and polysaccharides, we will be using water and buffers as mobile phase for the elution of your solute particles. So for example, proteins if you are using, so for example a mixture of proteins based on size if you are going to separate, you will be using buffers of different concentration. So these are the mobile phases. So materials, that means solute or sample particles and the type of solvent that is used for elute the sample particles are shown in this slide. For example, if you are using synthetic elastomers, you use toluene as mobile phase. So if you are using rubber or epoxy resins as packing material, then you use tetrahydrofuran. So if you are using polyolefins, you use trichlorobenzene. If you are using polyurethane dichloroformate, if you are using a protein or polysaccharides, you use water or buffers. So that is molecular exclusion or size exclusion chromatography. Then how you will elute the sample particles? from the column. So as I mentioned, the elution process is by using buffers which are mentioned in the previous slide and different chemical compounds that are used as solvents for the elution of the sample particles. Generally, this elution process is carried out by two different mechanisms. One is isocratic elution and the other one is gradient elution. That means in isocratic elution, the concentration of the buffer will be same throughout the time. It is only the volume of the buffer that is used to elute the sample particles out of the column. The concentration of the buffer will remain same. So that is isocratic elution. So in gradient elution, you will be increasing the pH of the buffer. So this type of gradient elution is especially used for isolation of protein molecules. If you change the pH of the buffer, it will also play an important role in detachment or eluting the protein samples from the column. So that is gradient elution, increasing the concentration or composition of the buffer with time. So you can clearly see the graph, percentage of mobile phase and also time in minutes. So increase in time, so you are going to increasing time, you can see the percentage of solvent, that is mobile phase. In isocratic elution, the red line, the concentration of the buffer will be same. In gradient elution, you can see the increase in the concentration or strength of the buffer with increase in time. So this is the graph that is showing the difference between isocratic and gradient elution. So this kind of elution mechanisms are used through entire column chromatography techniques. Whatever may be the column chromatographic technique, whether it is ion exchange, gel permeation or high performance liquid chromatography, whatever may be the technique, you can follow either gradient elution or isocratic elution. So that is the difference between gradient or isocratic elutions. So that is molecular exclusion chromatography. If you see the applications of this molecular exclusion chromatography or size exclusion chromatography, it is used for the analysis of synthetic polymers and oligomers, and also it is used for the separation of lipids and also proteins, cellulose derivatives like crude oils like alkanes. So that means separation of larger molecular size or weight compounds from the smaller molecular weight compounds. So that is the application of size exclusion chromatography. So the next one is ion exchange chromatography. So ion exchange chromatography, the basic principle is separation is based on the charge of the protein. So separation is based on the charge of the protein. So here you are using glass column as solid support and you will be using exchangers like anionic or cationic exchangers to pack the column. So for example, if you want to separate positively charged proteins from negatively charged proteins, so positive charge means cations, so then you will be using cationic exchanger. So that means cations will be having positive charge, cationic exchanger will be having negative charge. If you want to use to separate anions which are negatively charged, you use anionic buffer, that means positively charged exchanger. So these are the types of exchangers. Cationic exchangers which possess negative charge and attract oppositely charged molecules, that means it will attract cations. So that is cationic exchanger. Anionic exchanger will be possessing positive charge, it attracts negatively charged particles, that is anions. So cationic exchanger, it will have negative charge, it will attract positively charged cations. So proteins, if they contain more acidic amino acids, they contain negative charge. If they contain more positively charged amino acids, they contain positive charge. So the entire charge of the protein depends upon the composition of the amino acids in the protein. So if the protein will be having more positively charged, then you use cationic exchanger which is negatively charged exchanger. If the proteins will be having negative charge, then you use anionic exchanger which is having positive charge. So the column here will be packed with either cationic exchanger or anionic exchanger. So this is how you carry out the separation process. So if you want to separate a positively charged protein from a mixture of negatively charged proteins, then you use cationic exchanger. If you want to separate a negatively charged protein from a mixture of positively charged proteins, then use anionic exchanger. So you pack the column based on the requirement of your experiment with either cationic exchanger or anionic exchanger. So you can clearly see the column showing negatively charged cationic exchanger, where positively charged proteins are seen bound to the exchanger, whereas negatively charged proteins are repelled or come out of the column. So the other proteins will be eluted first, which is having the same charge as exchanger, and oppositely charged proteins will be binding to the exchanger. So you will elute the required protein or solute by altering the pH of the buffer or altering the concentration of the buffer. So that means increasing of high salt concentration of buffer. So these are exchangers. So these are some of the examples of exchangers, like weak and strong exchangers. So strong anionic exchangers like TEAE, weak anionic exchangers like DEAE, diethyl aminoethyl cellulose. Cationic exchangers, that means they contain negative charge, sulfomethyl cellulose, and weak cationic exchanger carboxymethyl cellulose. So these are the examples of the cellulose. So these modified groups will give special type of charges to the stationary phase that is packed in the column. So that is examples of cationic and anionic exchangers. Well, coming to the applications of ion exchange chromatography. So the ion exchange chromatography, the separation is based on ionic interactions, as I mentioned, positively and negatively charged interactions between the stationary and the solute to be separated. So the separation, so the buffer that is used will be varying in the concentration or pH. So that means you will be using gradient elution mechanisms to separate the solute particles in ion exchange chromatography. So especially proteins will be separated based on the charge of the protein, and a part of separation of proteins. So water can be, hard water will be converted into soft water. So hard water will be containing calcium and magnesium salts. So when it is passed through negatively charged cationic exchanger, then all the positively charged salts will be attaching to the negatively charged exchanger, and water will be eluted from the column. So it is used for water softening and also demineralization of water and also neutralization. So that means decrease in acidic and basic nature, highly alkali nature of the water. So these are the some of the applications of ion exchange chromatography. So that is ion exchange chromatography and gel filtration or molecular exclusion chromatography. So the next one is HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography. So here also you will be using a column. It will be glass column or metallic column which is packed with stationary phase. Here why we call this high performance liquid chromatography? Here the length of the column varies, and also you will decrease the retention time of the solute. For example, if you take molecular exclusion chromatography, you elute the solute particles by using more buffers or changing in the pH or concentration of the buffer, and the retention time will be more. Here in high performance liquid chromatography, we use some pressure such that the solute particles will be eluted faster from the column. For accurate results, we will increase the length of the column. So that means if you increase the length of the column and if you use some pressure, the retention time can be decreased because of the pressure, and due to the long nature of the column, length of the column, you can separate the solute particles accurately. So two things we can overcome. One is retention time and also resolution. So the resolution will be, that means separation of the solute particles will be accurate when you use high performance liquid chromatography. So particles of small diameter is used as stationary phase. So diameter of the particles will also be small. So compounds that are to be separated should be inoculated onto column. So you can clearly see the apparatus will be like this. You can clearly see the HPLC column there, a tube-like structure. So that will be the length of the column. Generally, the length of the column will be less in gel filtration as well as ion exchange or any other chromatography. In HPLC, the length of the column will be more. So you can clearly see the sample injector there. You can introduce this sample injector there. Introduce your sample into the column with the help of sample injector. So with the help of a pump, you can pressurize the entry of sample into through the column, and also solvent system is used to pressurize the entry of sample particles into the column. So with the help of this solvent and pressure pump, the solute particles will be separated, and when it is separated, you can get high resolution. So you can clearly see the peaks in the computer there or system there. So the detector detects the purity of the solute particle. So purity of the solute particle. So there won't be no broadening of the peaks. So the peaks will be very sharp. So that means the sample that is eluted from the column will be highly pure. So that means the resolution will be more. So this is how you decrease the retention time of your sample particle, and also you get highly resoluted or purified sample particles which can be used for further analysis like protein structure identification by mass spectroscopy and also some other techniques. So you can clearly see the apparatus. So the diameter and length of the column, that is the diameter will be around 3 to 5 mm and the length will be ranging from 10 to 30 centimeters. So the length of the column also depends upon the size and also shape of the solute particles to be separated. So here you can use any type of column. So you can use the plain column or ion exchange column or affinity column. So but the principle will be same. So it will decrease the retention time and the resolution will be more. So usually 3 to 5 width diameter diameter is used, and length will be around 10 to 30 centimeters. So that is the HPLC columns. So normally columns are filled with silica, and silica can be used to separate wide variety of chemical compounds, and its chromatographic behavior is generally predictable and reproducible. So that means silica is used as a stationary phase in the column, and the mobile phase, so you use buffers if you are using proteins, and if you are using drugs and all, you can use certain solvents for eluting your drug of interest. So these are the uses of high performance liquid chromatography. This technique is used for quantitative and qualitative analysis of various drugs and isoenzymes. So isoenzymes like lactate dehydrogenase, isocitrate dehydrogenase 1, 2, 3, lactate dehydrogenase 1, 2, 3. So different enzymes. Isoenzymes means they perform same function, but the performance will be in different organs like kidney, liver, etc. So those are called as isoenzymes. You can separate such kind of isoenzymes which function similarly, but their location will be at different organ with the help of this HPLC. And also drugs can be, and narcotics. Narcotics laboratories, they will use this technique to identify the drugs that are present in the patient's serum. So if you are drugged or using drugs or doped, then you can identify the doping compounds by using HPLC. And also use it to identify hemoglobinopathies. So that means variation in hemoglobin like sickle cell anemia, and also hemoglobinopathies like fetal hemoglobin, adult hemoglobin, etc. by using HPLC. So it is especially used, as I mentioned, federal and state regulatory agencies use HPLC to survey food and drug compounds for identifying confiscated narcotics. So narcotics can be identified by using HPLC. That means drugs, and also foods that contain drugs can be identified by using high performance liquid chromatography. So this is high performance liquid chromatography, how you perform and use to decrease the retention time of the sample in the column, and also to get better resolution of the compound. So this is a versatile technique and highly used technique in pharma industry. So that is today's topic, column chromatography, ion exchange based on the charge of the solute particles. You can separate the solute particles. Molecular exclusion chromatography, based on the size, shape and molecular weight, you can separate the compounds. And HPLC, separation of compounds with the same principles of chromatography, but getting highly accurate results and decreasing the retention time for the sample particles to be eluted. So that is high performance liquid chromatography. So that is today's topics. Thank you for patiently listening the topic.